today's case, it's about two countries actually coming together to fight a complicated legal battle. So let's travel back to 2018 and meet 22-year-old college student Haley Anderson. She eventually in college gets a boyfriend that she cares a lot about. It's a fellow student named Kevin Ocampo. Everyone felt Kevin and Haley were a great match for each other. Haley already had a job lined up for when she graduated in the spring of 2018. The plan was to return to Long Island and work in the emergency room at Northwell Health. During her last year of school, her senior year of college, Haley started seeing other people. And meanwhile, she began studying for her nursing boards and soaking up the last few months of college with her roommates and best friends. And they said Haley was supportive and sensitive, just an amazing friend, which was what made what happened that March in 2018 so incredibly devastating. On that night, March 8th, Haley, Josie, and Michelle, the three best friends, stayed up late into the night drinking and playing board games. Around 3 a.m., the girls finally called it a night. But when Josie and Michelle wake up later that morning, they realize Haley still isn't up and out of bed. So they end up checking her room and discover that she's not in bed. So that's when Josie and Michelle turn to the Find My Friends app on their phones. And they discover that Haley's cell phone is at a friend's house, someone she had been seeing casually, named Orlando Tesoro. He's a 22-year-old nursing student, just like Haley. Over time, though, particularly after going on and off with her pretty steady boyfriend, Kevin, the relationship between Haley and Orlando became more romantic. However, there was one thing that made it a little bit more complicated. And that's that Orlando and Kevin, Haley's ex, were in a fraternity together. So once they heard that Orlando and Haley had started seeing each other, they actually decide to kick Orlando out of the fraternity.
Bros. Never mind.
It's now the morning of March 9th, 2018, and Haley doesn't show up to that poetry reading, and her friends see that her cell phone's at Orlando's. Though they do try to reach out to Orlando, and he's not answering his calls or texts either. In fact, another friend of Orlando's also hasn't heard from him or Haley in a day or so. So on the morning of the 9th, Orlando's sister calls police to go to his house to do a welfare check. Now, when police show up and knock on Orlando's door, they notice his car isn't in the driveway. No one seems to be home. Josie and Michelle are now really worried. It is not like Haley to go this long without calling them or making contact. So they decide to take a ride over to Orlando's house too. This is just a few hours after police leave. These two girls spot an open window to his apartment.
Let's go.
Josie boosts Michelle inside and she climbs in herself. And that's when Michelle screams back to Josie to call 911.
Oh no.
Because lying on Orlando's bed is their friend Haley. She's naked. She's partially tucked under his covers. She's pale. She's motionless. So back at the crime scene, there is one very telling clue about what had gone down. It's actually a note that was left from Orlando that was written in Spanish. And when translated, the note reads, quote, "I'm really sorry about this. I never felt I could be capable of doing this.
Oh my.
Father, I will see you soon." Orlando is seen leaving his apartment, and this time he's alone. He moves some stuff away from his driveway, and then he pulls his car out and takes off. They track him and learn he went to a local pharmacy and got NyQuil and melatonin, sleep aids. And the footage shows him arriving back at his apartment. He goes inside and again doesn't come out for another 7 or so hours. Pretty quickly, they find that Orlando had driven 3 hours to JFK International Airport in New York City. They actually spot him on security footage there walking around with a bandage on his head, which confirms their theory that he probably injured himself. He boarded a plane to Nicaragua. It's clear at this point Orlando is feeling the heat because just 4 days after his arrival in Nicaragua, he makes another suicide attempt. This time, his mother drives him to the city of Leon, about an hour south, to get him help, check him into a psychiatric hospital. The thing is, though, by this point, the Nicaraguan authorities had been in touch with American officials because obviously they got a hold of him, and they tell them, yeah, we're willing to help you investigate to an extent. So on March 13th, 22-year-old Orlando was arrested by police at the hospital. And then finally in September 2019, Cornwell receives word and he tells the family, there's good news and bad news. Bad news is Nicaragua refuses to extradite him.
Oh.
Good news is they're going to press charges on him down there. So you can clearly see how important it was that the judge got to hear from these witnesses who knew Haley and Orlando back in the US, because so much of this was pretty circumstantial. But of course, the defense had their own version of events. They argued that Orlando had no recollection of the events. He woke up, he found Haley dead on his bed and had no idea how it had happened. And that's because Orlando was strongly under the influence of alcohol and was temporarily insane at the time, according to his defense team. However, the defense only called one witness to testify on Orlando's behalf, and it was a psychiatrist. The doctor noted that Orlando had tried to die by twice after the murder. They also mentioned he suffered from epileptic incidents. Then, after both sides rest, the judge did something we never see here in the United States. They let Haley's family give a final word. Karen says this, quote,
Haley was a beautiful, intelligent, and friendly girl. She was an aspiring nurse and had her whole life to look forward to. She was and still is my best friend. So thank you for listening and letting me speak on behalf of my daughter.
And that's when Haley's father came forward and said, quote, I want to leave you with this. I saw an endearing photo of you and your mother hugging each other, and my heart breaks for her. It truly does, because you stole from your own mother. And even though she has unconditional love for you, every time she hugs you now, she will get a glimpse of that monster within you, and she'll know that one day you might get out. As for Orlando, he continues to fight his charges. In February 2020, he was back in the courtroom to appeal his conviction.
Oh, get out of here, dude.
His attorney argued that he was
on.
highly intoxicated at the time. So the following month, they drag Haley's family back into the courtroom virtually to say why they believe he shouldn't get out. And Orlando's appeal was denied, which means his sentencing of 30 years stands. But that might not be the end. If he is released and steps foot on American soil, they said they will charge him again here. But no matter how many times Orlando stands trial and no matter how many countries work together, there's no bringing Haley Anderson back. And that's the hardest part of all of this. It's a win that there was an example of countries working together, but at whose expense? Haley's?
Yeah.
This just shouldn't have happened in general. And that is the case of Haley Anderson.
Oh, senseless. I will never understand.